Here's the first question. Do you think the library building needs improvements? And if so, what would you recommend?
Okay. Yes. The short answer is yes. The long answer of what do I think?
Use the microphone, please.
Thank you. Okay. How's that, better?
Yeah.
Okay, good, sorry. Educator, projecting, no microphone, sometimes it doesn't work well. All right, so yes, I do think that the building can use some work. I know, based on the 2018 assessment of the building, there's some structural stuff that needs to happen. I think that, and these are big and small things that I am listing. There's new carpeting that is needed. There's new shelving that is needed. There are new windows that are needed. We need a new heating system, which is in the process of being looked at. I'd like to see some new paint. I'd like to see, there are a lot of things that I would like to see in addition to some more nature-friendly plantings outside. And I haven't investigated this yet, but would like to, is what cleaning products do we use here? You know, what kinds of things could we be doing that make less of an impact on the environment? So I am trying to take, as a trustee, if you elect me, I'm trying to take a holistic approach to both big and small things within the building, and I guess that kind of is all I have to say about that. How's that?
I would also say yes, the building needs improvements. As we've learned, if you read through the proposal, the building proposal, which did not pass, there are things that are necessary, improvements that need to be made. I attended one of the building committee meetings recently and learned all about all the various things, and it was way more than I had been aware of before, even from reading the building project. So it's too long of a list, and I definitely don't carry it on my head. I'm going to rely a little bit on Anne for listing some of them out. But yes, they need improvement, and I will work to see where the board is at right now before I go on and say, like, we need to do this first, or we need to do this first. It seems silly for me to sit here as a non-board member and tell them what to do when I'm not exactly up to speed on that yet.
Great, so it's a great question, and yes, I do think the building needs improvements. So we have our more immediate needs, and the board is currently going through a process where we're working to prioritize those, making sure that we're using the funds we have available to address them, and we're taking a very, I think, thoughtful approach to figuring out what maintenance needs need to be done first, in what order. In terms of some other things that I think the library needs, the building needs, and quite frankly, the community needs, one thing in particular I really would love to see is a more defined and dedicated space for our teens. Some people may not realize we have a teen space, and that's because it's not very well defined. I've seen a lot of discussion on social media from parents whose middle schoolers have nowhere to go after school, and they're overtaking places at Four Corners. Oh, well, I would love to have them come to the library. It's what I did when I was in elementary school and junior high school. We went to the library after school on our walk home. So I would love to see us figure out a way to create a little bit more of a space for teens. I visited the Saratoga Springs Public Library. They have an amazing space for teens. So that, I think, is a need that the community has and the building has. The other thing is, I have to speak for the staff. If you haven't visited the second floor mezzanine and seen the conditions that the staff are working in, I encourage you to ask Jeff for a tour, and he'll take you. They really deserve a better space. I don't know the solution without an expansion, but I really do think it would be nice to figure out a way that we can have some different space for the staff who are upstairs.
I'm going to reiterate from what Ann said also. There are basic things that the building needs. The building's an old building. My husband's an architect, so I am, more aware of like building issues than a lot of people, I think, because I'm just hearing about it all the time and seeing his projects. And so it needs a boiler, it needs carpeting, it needs roof. There are big budget items that have to be done. It would be nice to have a redone children's space. And I would challenge everyone to go to different libraries and come back with different ideas. Like, I saw this at this library, and I'm glad you mentioned the 2018 survey, because people really didn't think the library needed anything. They thought it was perfect the way it was, but that was in 2018. So I do think that needs to be addressed again. The children's space, I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. We go there, and I just think it could be so much better. And I would like people to, have an input about that. Like, somehow having another survey with different sections of parts of the library. What would you like to see here? What have you seen? It's great to take from other places and take ideas from other buildings and communities. So I think Bethlehem can do better with our library. I just think that we have to be careful with our spending, and I think that's possible. You just have to, find the right resources, and you have to find the right connections to make those things happen. So, and also, I would like to model indigenous plantings to the library. It would be so important for the library to have, native plants here. And that would educate so many people that they might start getting native plants in their homes, because it's so important. And, let's not get into that, but
30 seconds.
I agree with everything that they said. But I think that there really needs to be some, facelifting.
Okay, next question, and this one will start with Jill. Can you share your thoughts on how you would deal with pressure from the community to ban certain books or not allow certain materials to be part of the library's resources?
How would I deal with pressure from the community about a potential book ban?
To ban certain books or not allow certain materials to be part of the library's
restricting
resources?
other library. Well, I would start with the library mission, which basically says uncensored access to resources and materials. So that is our guiding mission statement. How would I deal with the pressure? I would remind somebody that that is our mission statement and that there's a reason for it. That if there's, this is a tough one for me to frame right on the spot. I'm going to try though. The library has a huge range of materials for all the different peoples that might use the library. There's something you don't want to look at, don't look at it. I'm sorry, that sounds a little glib, but there's a part of me that feels like I guess I don't understand why we would ban a book to start with. So, I don't know. I guess that's my answer, is I would rely on the mission statement to back me up, what libraries have done in the past in terms of book banning and pushing back on that kind of pressure from the community.
So I have the unfortunate advantage of having already faced this experience. I think in my time on the board, we have had to address one request from a patron to remove a book from the library. It was those are decisions that are handled by the director, but patrons can appeal to the board. And we have had to vote on whether or not to remove a book from the library, and I'm very happy to say that we voted unanimously to keep the book on the shelves. And I will say it's not necessarily a book I would read or would recommend anyone else read, but it doesn't matter. As I said in my statement, I am pretty much unwavering in my commitment to fighting against censorship attempts, and I think it's more critical than ever that we all stand up for freedom of speech and freedom of information. The other thing is, we can rely on our attorneys to help us in these situations, and we've had to do that, and thank goodness for them, because we need to make sure that the library is following the law, or otherwise we could put the library at risk. We also, and these are things I would do too, is rely on our attorneys, rely on the support of the Upper Hudson Library System. They're a great resource. And, one of the things I do, kind of like Jill, is I research things like crazy and try to learn and educate myself as much as possible. So when we have been faced with these things, I'm on the American Library Association website, and I am reading their guidance and their best practices, and making sure that I come armed and prepared with what is the national standard and what are the national recommendations for how we uphold the First Amendment and defend against book bans. And I'll also share that I have a track record. My Little Free Diverse Library, we share banned books all year long. I had an event for Banned Books Week a couple of years ago, so it is just core to my beliefs, and part of why I wanted to serve on the board was because I knew that I could be unwavering in my commitment to defending against censorship.
Okay. There's no banning books. That's bottom line. I wouldn't even know how to argue with someone about that. I know that in Texas and in Texas and Florida, there's been a plethora of requests to ban certain books, like 1,000% over the last year or two. And they're mostly targeting LGBTQ and trans characters. And that is just not acceptable. I'm just throwing that out there, those people are the targets. But generally, in a general sense, there are also lots of books out there that have a lot of misinformation, and especially some misinformation that are in children's books. And the only way to deal with that is not to ban the book, but to make sure that there are books that have information that is of another factual base, like, a balance of these books. So I wouldn't ban anybody's book from information that I thought was inaccurate, but I would just make sure that there are books that tell a different story. And that's how I deal with that issue. Thank you.
Ready? Okay. All right. This is something that I've thought a lot about, and as Michelle said, banning books, no. But there are certain books that I believe should not be in a public library. And those are books whose sole purpose is to espouse hate or self-harm. So I would say that, you want to read those books, you can do that in a lot of places. But I don't think that this is a community that wants books on their library shelves that help people hurt themselves or espouse hate. So I would say that those kinds of books do not belong here. I think when we come to a situation where someone approaches us and asks us about a book being removed from the collection, that it is our responsibility to read the book, all right? To be informed, to understand what that book is about, to have a discussion, talk to lawyers, talk to people, and see what it is we should do with a particular book. So if we decide to remove a book from the library shelves or prevent it from coming into the library, we have a very solid basis for doing that. And I guess that's my answer. I mean, the reality is that we are selecting books to come into this collection all the time, because there is no way we as a public library can have every book in print on the shelves. That's an impossibility. So I would say to you that we would need to use that selective process that I assume Jeff is using most of the time to build the collection, to look at guidelines that our lawyers and the board think are important for the collection in the library.
All right, next question, and Laura, you'll be the first one to answer this. Have you or will you be receiving financial or in-kind support for your campaign from any entity or person? And if so, what type of support and from whom?
Sure. Well, luckily, I already said that. But I'll happily reiterate. I think I can remember off the top of my head. So first of all, I don't expect to receive any other support necessarily, maybe a little bit, but so far my husband and I have spent $188 on things like bookmarks and flyers and some stickers. And one donor from Del Mar, he's in the room actually, Louis Wittig, he is just a supporter and a Del Mar resident. He purchased lawn signs for $126, so a total of $313.90 so far has been spent, financial or otherwise. I have not received any in-kind consulting or other services. And I'm really trying to keep expenses down. I don't really believe that a library election should be so heavily politicized, should not be something that we're spending thousands of dollars on. I'm hoping that I can earn your vote just by being me and using just regular communications means to reach out to people, have conversations with you. I'm going to be having a couple of opportunities for you to come meet me and have conversations with me, and I welcome that kind of outreach, but I'm not really planning to spend a whole lot more money on my campaign, but if I do, it will all be updated on my Instagram account.
I have purchased lawn signs, and they're not cheap. They're not. And I have palm cards. And my husband and I are spending it ourselves. So I have not received any money from anybody, and I don't expect to receive any money from anybody. Yeah. Lawn signs are expensive.
Especially if they're double-sided.
Right, exactly. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. So I have paid for most of the things in the campaign myself. I got a friend of mine gave me a small amount of money that I used to pay for expensive signs. I have actually had people call me and ask me if they can donate to my campaign, and I have said no, because I don't need money from someone else for this. There is no in-kind service that I plan on giving to my friend who donated to me or to anybody else, and I am not endorsed by any political party either, and I don't want to be.
Hi. I also have lawn signs, and I did accept a donation from a friend to help me purchase those lawn signs. I have also said no to a few people who wanted to donate to my campaign, and I've still had a few people Venmo me in some very small amounts, just because as an offer of support, I would say. And I don't know that I'm going to spend anything else. So have I promised anybody anything for buying me lawn signs? No. Would I? No.
All right, thank you. Last question. What is your perspective on the library's role in providing community spaces?
Oh, big, yes. I think that's one of the major benefits of having a public library in our town. And unfortunately, I understand the bond issue, it failed, but it was all about community space. What's happening, people are, the economy is not doing so great right now, and who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years, but I think people are going to be looking for third area spaces, the library to visit with friends, to do activities, to do events, because it doesn't cost anything. And I think people are going to be looking to the library more and more over the next few years, depending on, how the economy goes. And I think it's really important to provide that. Seniors, it's a great place for them to come. All the wonderful activities that they provide. People come, I come with my grandchild, I see people here all the time with their little kids with story hour. And kids come here after school, and it provides a place for them to get together in a safe space, safe, clean. I'm all about safe spaces. That's my bottom line, because I've been in some very unsafe spaces. So I think it's a huge part of what this library is about. It's equal access, equal opportunity. Everyone should be feeling comfortable when they walk into the library. And it's an amazing place for everybody. And that's it. Thank you.
Jeff, could I ask you for just a little clarification? I don't know if you can give it to me or not, based on what, are you talking about programs that I can roll with it, whatever my interpretation is? Okay.
Because they're not our questions.
Okay.
So they're from the community.
So the thing that is in the back of my mind, especially given the economy and the way it is right now, or maybe in the future, is that this is a school district library. And I would like to see priority given to school district residents. We pay for this library. We are responsible for its upkeep, for its collection, for the things that happen here. And I think it is important to start prioritizing school district residents for their programs and their participation in things. If programs don't fill up, I would be happy to offer places to members of the Upper Hudson Library System. But they also, are using the library and are not financially responsible for its upkeep. So I'm all about that the community can use this. I'm all about that. Mm-hmm. I'm all about that we should have things for the community here. But again, if things are tight, Bethlehem School District residents should be the ones who are able to access programs without having to be told that there's not enough space because folks from Upper Hudson Library System are attending instead of them.
My perspective on the library as a community space, or community spaces. Totally, yes. I mentioned this idea of third places when I gave my statement, and when I think about third places, so this is community spaces that are open to the public, and I think about the places I spend that aren't at work or at home. It's the coffee shop, it's the walking trails, it's the gym. When my kids were younger, it was the soccer sidelines, and yet the coffee shop is a great place to meet a friend, but it does cost money. You have to buy a cup of coffee. Here, you can meet a friend for free. So I really think, and then, I can go to the park and go for a walk, but if it's raining or super cold, the library is going to be warm. So it's just like the perfect third place. It's the perfect place to be a community center. I also love the idea that the library serves many constituencies in our community and beyond. So children's space is great. Teen space might need some help. How can we make it more appealing for teens to come here after school to play games or to meet with their tutors or both? Older people, we live right next door to an assisted living community. How can we make sure that those things are aligned and give people who are living there another place to go, a third place? Yeah, it's just great. I mean, whether you come here to do solitary work, to meet a friend, to join a group. I've gone to the boardroom for a knitting group that used to meet here once a month. I used to belong to a writing group that we met once a month in that room. I've come to other programming, of course, here and outside on the lawn. And every time I'm here, I'm also picking up my book that's on hold, so it's just the best place.
It's hard to fully remember the question when you're the last person, but I think just absolutely, libraries are essential community infrastructure, like parks and the outdoors. So my professional career is all about promoting spaces, public spaces. And so I think the outdoors, like libraries, are spaces that you can just go to exist. And there's no expectation. You can come, you can leave with something, or maybe you leave with nothing, except maybe a feeling or an experience. So I think that libraries are absolutely essential community spaces. And the third spaces discussion is so important. I have a little bit of planning background as well, and that's something that's really critical when you talk about community development. These are places where we should be able to have critical conversations, again, something I think that's more important now than ever, and places for people to have that learning, that lifelong learning that is the library's mission. I take a broad view of what community is, and I hope that we will always make this space available to anyone. When I visit other places in other states, other communities, I will go to the public library, and I shouldn't have to live necessarily in that community to be able to access these spaces. I hope that we can always keep this library as open and as inclusive and as welcoming to all of our neighbors as possible. One just wonderful example of community I want to mention is the community puzzle space. My son, brought him here one day, and it's not something I would do, but he sat down and he started doing the puzzle, and there was someone else doing the puzzle, an older person who we didn't know, and we ended up just in conversation, the three of us. And that's just something that doesn't happen in many other places, but we could do that here without having to buy anything and spend as little or as long time as you would like here. And that was a connection that we made that we might not have made anywhere else. So again, I just hope that we can always have this space available for the public and for communities.
All right, that's it. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank everybody in the audience. Thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.